Hey, what's going on, RC drivers? Welcome back to the workshop. You've already seen the thumbnail to this video. You know what we're going to talk about today. I have the new Losi Super Baja Rey 2.0, and this truck looks absolutely insane. The detail on it is incredible. It runs on 8S. It is just going to rip up the dirt. But first, we need to check out the features. So let's head over to the workbench and get into it. Look at the size of this truck. It's like the guys over at Losi knew that I was gonna have a bigger workshop, and they're like, you know what, let's build a bigger truck to put on his workbench. I'm pretty convinced that that's what they were doing. But seriously guys, this truck is absolutely incredible. I mean, I thought the Super Baja Rey, 1.0 was pretty cool, but this, realistic scale detail body here, licensed graphics, licensed parts, they just went over the top with this thing. Now, as I mentioned, this is a four-wheel drive electric desert truck, and it's basically like the Super Rock Ray. And let me go over here. It's actually on the floor. I pulled it out of storage just to check it out. It's got the same chassis on here, and the dimensions on here are absolutely perfect, I think. Just realistic looking. But let me stop drooling over this thing. Let's talk about its features, and we'll start off in the front here. Check out the front deflector here. It is rubber, and it's actually got the Brenthel logo printed on here. That's one thing I didn't mention. This is the Brenthel truck, and it's a licensed truck. It's a real racing truck, but back here, this is really cool that this isn't just a sticker and is actually printed on the rubber material. And then we've got this plastic strip here that holds everything in place with a bunch of screws. Really nice setup there, gives it that scaled look. And right here, this is actually a molded front grille, and this is a light bar. So yes, we have a light bar here, we have a light bar here, and then back here, another light bar. So this thing is gonna be really well lit up if you're driving this thing at night, but that's just super cool that they went that extra mile and built that into this the front grille here. Got a little bumper bar down below, and then we get into the body. The body is a single piece. So I believe the original, again, forgive me, I didn't have the original, the 1.0. I think it was a multi-piece body. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a single piece body here. Still a ton of screws to get the shell off of the cage. And you kind of need to do that because you can't get to this screw back here to pull the whole thing off in one piece. Maybe you could drill a hole, but I would be afraid that that would weaken it right there. But anyway, it's a gray body, and then they put these decals on there. One suggestion I do have for you guys, these decals are really, really nice on this. And they do tend to lift a little bit. I mean, just the nature of a decal. I'd go hit everything with a hairdryer once you get it, just to knock down the bubbles and stuff. Get everything to adhere better, and that way that body looks that cool a lot longer. But let's just go over some more details here. So we do have driver figures inside. We've got the driver and the navigator, plastic heads on here, decals on the dashboard. You can kind of see that Spectrum speed controller sticking out. Very, very cool. But again, like the extra detail on this, definitely adds to the fun factor of it. And moving back here is where all the detail really is that I want to show you guys. Let me kind of turn this thing around. Again, bench not big enough. All right, hopefully it doesn't roll off. Let's check this out here. Look at all this stuff back here. This is all included. First up, we gotta go right to the dual spare tire carrier. That just looks incredible. And yes, you can go pop these tires off, use them if you need to. We'll talk about the tires in a little bit, but there's your filler back here. Check out that bumper work in the back. We've got a spare tire jack, even has the Losi decal on there. That is pretty awesome. Radiator fans, a fire extinguisher, reservoirs back here. There is that rear light. Just incredible. So from what I've read, this is a new body on, a new cage in this truck. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm definitely assuming that the back half of it is new because we've got this dual tire carrier back here. But this just looks incredible. All that, really makes for a really nice looking scale truck when you're out there flying with this thing. Again, it's on 8S. And here, let me get this thing back on the workbench so you can see this. Watch this. Check out that suspension drop. Love that. Love watching, real videos of real trucks, driving through the desert, watching the suspension drop out, and you could do that here with an RC truck. How awesome is that? All right, enough about the body. I'm gonna go and pull that off, pull the cage off, so we can take a look at what is underneath. Again, the chassis is much like the Super Rock Ray. So if you're familiar with that truck, you're probably gonna see a lot of stuff that you're familiar with, but the front is still from the Baja Rey. So let me get this body off and we can see some more details. All right, so I've got the body and cage off of the chassis. Just as a side note, for those of you that just like to run a cage on your vehicles, that one looks pretty dialed, so it should look cool when you're running it out there in the dirt. But really what we need to check out here is the chassis. And for those of you who are familiar with the Losi brand, this is pretty much like the Super Rock Ray chassis. This center section here is lifted from that rig. And I tested that rig out, so if you haven't seen that review, check it out. I will put a link up above. It'll give you some extra details, but it is a proven setup that works really well, at least in my experience. And I actually loaned that buggy out to a local hobby shop that let customers drive it, and it held up to that. So anyway, let's talk new stuff. Up front, we've got a new bumper on here. I didn't have a 1.0, but looking at the pictures, this definitely looks like a new front bumper, and it looks pretty solid. There's a lot of bracing and webbing going on here, so hopefully that should hold up to the nosedives and stuff. Right behind it is probably one of my favorite things that I want to point out, the King shocks. Licensed shocks, they've got a really cool look to it. Aluminum caps, aluminum body, threaded body, aluminum lower cap, really thick shock shafts on here, bump stops. Stiff springs, really good feel to it as well. So we've got a shorter version in the front, longer version in the rear. The A-arms of the suspension, you've got upper and lower A-arms, and from what I gather, those are new on this truck. So hopefully, I'm guessing better durability. And they are a little flexible from what I can feel. At least the upper one is flexible, the lower one feels solid. Wow, that is pretty solid. There's a sway bar connecting the two, help keep everything planted. Moving farther out on the arms, we go to the steering knuckles. Again, pivot ball is snapped into the arm, and then the steering knuckle swivels on that. On the end of the steering knuckles, we do have disc brakes, which is really cool. Adds to that scale factor of it, and calipers out there as well. And then, on the inside of it, there are hinge pins at the bottom that are captured with aluminum plates to help keep everything solid. We've got this huge U-shaped hinge pin up top. Again, kind of ties everything together. Composite shock tower up top. And that really rounds out the front suspension on here. I might as well talk about a little bit of the drivetrain stuff while I'm here. So we've got a gear differential in the front case. Obviously, it's ball bearing supported. Everything on the entire drivetrain is ball bearing supported. Steel ring and pinion gear on there. And then it sends power out through new drive shafts in the front of this. So we've got telescoping drive shafts with steel yokes on it. So hopefully that will hold up to the 8S power this thing is gonna pump out. Pretty cool. The way it feels, I mean, they've got some heavy differential oil in there. Look at that. I mean, it almost moves the whole truck before it starts to spin. So they got some heavy diff fluids in there. That's much better than having to go swap it out yourself, because taking this apart, it takes some time. All right, now let me move back to the steering. Pretty much the same steering assembly from what I could tell as on the Super Rock Ray, dual crank steering. And we've got a servo saver spring in there. We've got really massive tie rods out to the steering knuckles. So that should all hold up. Then onto the chassis. Again, pretty much the same as the Super Rock Ray chassis, aluminum chassis with an aluminum upper deck. The battery goes in from the bottom. It's a bottom load, so in the bulkhead in the rear, you pull out this little slide, the hatch door drops out. You can slide your batteries up and in, and then you can put a 6S worth of packs in there or 8S worth of packs in there. It has this huge battery mount to fill up, so you could probably put a lot of different packs in there. Mud guards up front, we've seen that before on the Super Rock Ray. On the other side, there is a plate so you can drop out the motor if you need to. And while I'm talking about the center stuff, so we've got a center gear differential, we've got all metal gears, idler gear, pinion gear, cast aluminum motor plate that is pre-drilled so you could put different pinion gears on there, and just made it up with the number of holes, or made it up with the number on the motor blade itself. Really easy to set gear mesh that way. And that's pretty much it in the center section. We've got this plate up top to help secure the speed controller, which we'll talk about in a little bit. We've got these tall rear shock towers, and then a sway bar peeking out from that over to the live 4-link rear suspension. Now this has been revised. It's a bit longer than the lower trailing arms that we've seen before, and it's done right here. So there's an extra hole right in the center section of it, and so it's about an inch longer. So we've got a longer wheelbase on this, which will help with stability. And of course, they had to go and give us longer upper rods to go with that. Those are aluminum, but really solid feel to it. And I don't think I ever had any issues on my Super Rock Ray. In fact, everything's still tight on there. So hopefully this works out well. And that really rounds out the suspension. We talked about the King shocks in the rear. And again, you know, look at the shock travel on here, really long travel shocks. This should be a lot of fun when we're out there driving it. Then I'm going to move on to the rear axle on this. So pretty much the same as the Super Rock Ray axle. We've got a differential in the rear, steel ring and pinion gear. We've got this huge slider axle on here that actually says, you know, warning hot, because this thing does get hot. Again, we've got the steel yokes to keep everything in check with the power that's going to go through this. And let me move out to the wheels and tires. The wheels and tires are rad on this. So we've got BF Goodrich mud terrain KM3 tires, licensed tires, really cool tread. Love this tread on here. And then we have Method Racing beadlock wheels, and Losi calls these true beadlock wheels. There are a ton of screws that hold the beadlock rings together, both sides, you know, inside and outside, offset style of rim to it. 17mm hex on here, but really cool wheel and tire setup on this. I can't wait to see how the traction is on this truck. All right, time to move inside to the electronics. So we have a Spectrum 6100 AT receiver. That is their AVC receiver with telemetry in there. So again, those of you that need a little bit of assist as far as keeping this thing under control, the AVC can help you out with that. And then the telemetry option is really cool because they give you the DX3 radio, and you can see the battery voltage readout on there if you're using Spectrum batteries, but let me not jump ahead. Also sticking out of the receiver is this massive bundle of plugs that mate up with the LED lights that we talked about before. Now I want to move on to the Spectrum Firma 160 speed controller, 160 amp speed controller. This isn't the cat pack version, but I've used this speed controller. Works really well. It is fitted with IC5 connectors on there, so you're going to need you know, 2 batteries that will mate up to the 2 plugs, or you know, you can go bypass that if you want to. They don't give you a bypass plug in the kit. But anyway, this speed controller, fully programmable, and again, you know, you could go and you know, read the battery voltage on your DX3 radio that it does come with. So great speed controller, fan on top, and it sends power down to the new 750 kV motor. I forgot the number, but anyway, that's a new motor. Didn't even find it on the Spectrum website. But it's a massive can motor here. We got heatsink fins, no cooling fan on there, so we'll have to check out the temperatures as we drive this thing. And then right in front of the motor is the Spectrum 905 HV servo. So this is an updated large scale servo from Spectrum, HV high voltage capable, and it mates up to a metal steering arm that goes over to the steering. So metal geared servo, that should hopefully provide plenty of torque for this thing. And that's really about it, guys. That's all the details of this new truck. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be awesome. Just size-wise, power-wise, it's got to tear up a lot of dirt. So why don't we see how it does? Let's go out for a drive. So regular followers of the channel, you probably knew where I was taking this truck. I took it to my favorite bashing field where I take a lot of test vehicles. I mean, this place is really perfect for this truck. Here we go, drivers. Time to talk about the SBR 2.0 while I drive it around. I've already been driving it on 6S, and it is a lot of fun on 6S. All the close-up video you guys saw is on 6S, and right here we're on 8S. It's a Spectrum Smart Pack, two of them, two 4S packs, and this thing has a ton of rip. Look at the dust it is ripping up. You won't rip up that much dust with a 10 scale car, and actually I just covered myself in rocks. This thing is insane. Look at that. Whoa! On the binders. Yeah, ripping around the corner. This thing has got a lot of steering, and I think a lot of it's due to that new servo, that HV servo that's in there. But the other thing is the suspension is kind of soft, and there's two kind of thoughts behind that. One is, you know, you want it to be a little bit firmer so it kind of handles a bit better when you're ripping through a corner. But what's really cool is with the suspension being so soft, you could really watch the action in the fender wells. You can see those tires going up and down, and it is so cool. And it, you know, it dives into a corner like a real truck does. And you have to drive it some more. I mean, that's really it. I'm okay with the suspension because it looks so awesome. It looks so scale. Look at that thing. That's awesome. All right, let's do a little jump here. Yeah. All right. This thing just gets up and goes on 8S for its size. It's got a huge stance to it. Yeah. Oh, I gotta shut the camera off for a second, let this dust die down. We'll move over to another spot. All right, so this is a killer jump right here. Let me roll on the throttle. Yeah. That rear axle just drops. You can see it drop out, and it looks so rad. Oh, so dusty today. But look at that. I mean, this thing almost turns around this narrow little path. That's how good the steering is on it. That's how much travel it has. This thing has been hitting rocks. The bottom is all scratched up. I did clean up the rocks, but this thing spits them all out. It's tearing them up from the ground. It's so quick to react. I like the smoothness of the throttle. Yeah. That thing was coming down on two wheels, pulled out of it. This thing, look at that. Got some lean in the corners. I can't even see it, and it's still on all fours. Let me go over here. Watch this. Ah! Oh, crash, and on all fours. Oh, so cool. Turn this thing around. Let's do it again. Whoa! And it's still on all fours. Look at all that dust. Yeah, just ripping on this thing. Love it. Let's go down this stretch. This is a pretty cool stretch to watch this truck really work the suspension. Hopefully you guys can see it. Let's pull the throttle squeeze onto it. Yeah! Whoa, I was just way too hard on the gas there. The brakes weren't able to save it in this loose dirt. But that was still cool. It's still on all fours. That's all that matters. Look at this thing. All right. Come back around, roll on the throttle. We got traction. It's gonna hit this jump. Yeah, there we go. Around the berm. Look at all that dust in the air. So rad. So rad. Love that spot. We're gonna do the berm over there in a little bit. I know you guys love that. I love that, at least. I don't know. Maybe you guys don't. Look at this thing. Yeah! Whoa! It just pulled that nose up. I backed off on the throttle. It settled itself in. Oh, this thing. I can't tell you. My heart is pumping right now because of this thing. Just driving it is incredible. Look at this. We're doing it again. Yeah! Around the berm. Oh, I rolled it on all fours. Back at it. We're back at it. All right, we're gonna do the berm. Time to rip this beast around the berm. Whoa, a little high. I'm not used to the power yet. This thing has just so much punch to it, so much rip. Yeah, had to back off a little bit. Oh, the thing's just hitting bumps and jumps and staying on all fours. Oh, the body's a little tweaked up front here. Let's check this out. Oh, looks like we just tucked in the front grill a little bit. So the thing was taking hits up front. Look at all this dust. All right, let's go through the dust. Yeah! I love that spot. That's so cool. Almost able to do full throttle. I had to back off a little bit. 2 wheels. Yeah! Oh, even busted through some rocks over there on the side. Whoa, look at this suspension. Just try to keep your eye on the suspension if you can. I don't know how well it's going to show up in the camera, but that's what's so cool. I mean, the truck feels a tad soft, but that's what this truck is all about. I mean, crazy suspension travel, watching it go. And you could actually, you know what? I'm not going to complain about it because it's controllable. Did I lose a wheel or something? Whoa. I think I just expanded a tire way too much in that corner. I heard it grab the body. Worried me a little bit. All right, we're back in action. Let's do another rip through here. Yeah, look at how those tires grow. Those true bead-locks are holding those tires in place. Whoa, over the top. Oh, on its side. All right, let's move on. Here's the last spot for today. Let's go over this jump here. Nice and smooth. Love that. All right, ramping up the throttle. Whoa. It went a little sideways, a little windy today. I wonder if that's part of it because this is a lot of truck. It catches some air. Wow, did you see that? The AVC was definitely working out there. I saw the wheels tweak, but I'm impressed. Look at it. I think that jumps really, really well. Landings are really plush. It gathers itself up so well. Look at that. Look at that. Just the speed. And that suspension, I do love the suspension. I'm saying it was a little soft, but nah, it's all part. This is a big experience with this truck on many levels. From the speed to the handling to just watching the motion, the scale detail of this, absolutely incredible. Oh, wow. You know what? I like this better than the Super Rock Ray. I hate to say it, but this is incredible. Oh, is it got to land on all four? And it lands on all fours. That was a hard hit. That front grille is tweaked in again. I'm just gonna keep going. Get another jump in here. Yeah, nice, smooth, floated right over the bump. All right, I gotta fix that grille. It's tweaking me out a bit. Let's just pop this back out. This is probably gonna be the only issue right here on this truck, is popping that grill out when it folds over. Look at that, it just squats down in the rear when you pull on the throttle. Just tons of action on all levels. Yeah. This is insane. All right, last jump for today, guys. Whoa, that thing is so fast. All right, you know what time it is? Time to head back to the workshop. We'll wrap up this review. So how do you know when you had a really good time with an RC car? Well, let me tell you, when you come home and spend 10 minutes dumping dirt out of your shoes and you don't mind, you probably had a really good time with an RC car. And that's exactly what happened with this truck right here. I had so much fun with it. I didn't care about roosting dirt all over me to get the cool shots that you guys just saw in the video. I mean, I was really, really into this truck, and I just got down and I had to get the best footage I could for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it, but I really enjoyed driving this truck. It has so much power, both on 6S and on 8S. The handling of it is so realistic, and the truck itself is so realistic. It really gives you a great overall experience, and this truck is really tough on top of it. So, you know, out there in the bashing field, I mean, you guys saw it. You heard me talking about it while I was driving it. It is an incredible truck to drive. You know, you have to control it a lot. And, you know, some trucks out there, they seem to drive on their own, and that's a lot of fun. There is a bit more wheeling to this. You do have to consider that the weight and size of this machine, the height of the machine actually, you know, so the higher CG of it is going to make the truck lean a lot going into corners. The edge of the tire will grab a lot, and just like a real truck, you have to just be aware of that as you're going through, like, let's say a berm corner, that this thing could catch and roll because that front end is diving down. And I don't think the suspension needs to be tuned. As I mentioned, I mentioned a number of times, I know, that it felt kind of soft, and I was a little worried about it, but then I realized that, like, you really just need to drive this truck because that's part of the experience of this truck. And I am not knocking the handling at all. I mean, watching this truck soak up the bumps and the jumps, just very cool. Watching the suspension drop out of the fender wells, it is so awesome to see, you know, up in person. Hopefully I caught it for you on film. The steering on this is absolutely amazing. I was really impressed with how tight I could really turn this truck around, tight of a lane I could turn this truck around in. Those narrow lanes where the dirt bikes usually go on that field, I was able to get the truck turned around quite a number of times in that narrow lane. So this steering servo has some power to it right out of the box. And definitely there is enough steering throw to you know, take advantage of the steering servo. So you can get this truck turned pretty easily. And you know, if you do need to make corrections and stuff, it's very fast. So I love the steering setup on it. So far, so good on it. No durability issues to report there either. Again, the handling is just awesome. Watching this truck soak up some of those bumps, going full throttle, launching off of jumps, and this thing just taking the landing, taking the hits, hitting rocks and stuff like that. It soaked everything up. You know, again, it can roll over. If you go too hot into a corner, it will catch, it will roll over. You just got to learn to drive it. And once you got a handle of it, the more and more I drove it, the more I got a handle of it, and the more fun it was, the more I really enjoyed just the way it was set up. We flipped this thing, we tumbled this thing. The only issue I have to report so far is, like, the plug came out of the receiver for the lights on this. Big deal. The other thing is the battery door. I guess I could complain about the battery door, and I've said this in some other videos before, is the bottom load battery doors do get caught up with sand, or, you know, they get sand caught up in them, I should say, and it can make it difficult to pull the battery door out. And so the first time I ran it was on 6S, and I think I got a lot of dirt in there, and it just jammed everything up. And so I had to kind of wiggle the pull latch free, then had to take a screwdriver and actually kind of work the battery door out. You know, that's a kind of a complaint there. The other thing I'll complain about is the body. You know, it takes a long time to take the body off of this thing. And if you want to go and check temperatures, you know, you really can't get in there with a temp gun. So that's a little bit of an issue for those of you that may be running hot and you think you may be running hot. So when I was running this, first I ran it on 6S, and then I jumped right into 8S. The cool down period was only the amount of time of swapping out the battery. It was a 76-degree day during the run time there, and you know, so I ran back to back and no overheating issues. The throttle didn't feel soft, so I guess it's powered right. I heard the fan on the speed controller going, so I know that was getting cool, but no sign of issues from the motor. So, you know, again, maybe you need to check that if you're in hotter temperatures, but everything was fine during my testing. And this truck is awesome. It really is awesome. I mentioned in the video that I liked it better than the Super Rock Ray, and I do. The Super Rock Ray is an experience in itself, but this truck on all levels is just pure awesome. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this detailed review of the Losi Super Baja Rey 2.0. Very cool truck. If you haven't done so yet, please click that subscribe button and the notification bell. Throw the video a like. We'll see you back soon for some more RC driver videos.